All right. It is Sunday night, and we are here live on YouTube and in your podcast feed. What's up, everybody? Hey, I'm Guy Haberman, and we got a lot to talk about. As always, Niners beat the Patriots. It was a 30-13 game. The outcome was never really in doubt. You know, you'd watch the Rams game last week come back. You'd watch the Packers almost come back on the Vikings earlier in the day. You'd watch Georgia almost come back, take the lead, lose to Alabama on Saturday night. You watch the Niners go down, first possession, field goal, takeaway, field goal. You go, are these guys? No, never in doubt, never in doubt. The bar is lower on a game like this. This is not the Chiefs. This is not even the Cardinals next week. It's not even the Commanders, the 3-1 Commanders. It's none of those teams. It's a team that is a poor man's 49ers, actually. Not very explosive, tough quarterback, blah, 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 blah. And the 49ers didn't play a perfectly clean game. I'm sure that'll be some people's take on this game. It's not mine. Don't particularly care. Would love to see you dismantle and dominate, but I think when you get up so big on a team that clearly just does not have the firepower to come back on you, things get a little loose, maybe. Is that acceptable? People will say it's not acceptable, but it's just a reality. To me, there were a couple key things watching for in this game, and I'll tell you what I saw in that coming up in just a second. But I do want to tell you that this show is brought to you again this week by the awesome people behind and in front of the scenes at Puesto Mexican Artisan Kitchen. Why is it brought to you by Puesto again today? Because the 49ers are home again next week. And when the 49ers are home, there is only one place to go eat for you, for Nick Bosa. It's in the backfield for you. It's at Puesto. They got 2 locations at Levi Stadium. The Adler brothers, all right? These people built this powerhouse restaurant from the ground up in Southern California. They're Niner fans, and imagine their joy that they have their restaurant, 2 locations in their favorite team's stadium. Now, if you're not going to the game, you can also go have Puesto. You don't even have to wait till Sunday because they got Taco Tuesday, which is always great. But they got 2 locations in the Bay Area, one in Santa Clara, one in Concord. They got a bunch of locations in Southern California as well, Orange County and San Diego, and it's just the best. Okay, I've sent people, I've told people, and the people that know how good Puesto is. So you want your tacos, you want your burritos, you want your margaritas. Everything is so fresh. They are making tortillas fresh inside Levi Stadium. Okay, nobody is doing that. They've got the margaritas with the fresh strawberry, the fresh lime. You are not going to eat this well most of your meals outside of a football stadium, let alone inside of a football stadium. I tell you all the time, I love the quesadilla taco with the short rib, the crispy melted cheese, the salsa, the radish, the guacamole. Their guacamole, by the way, is a whole other thing. It's fantastic. The ooey gooey cheese. The short rib is just off the charts. They have filet mignon tacos. They have the shrimp tacos. They got lobster tacos. That sweet Maine lobster and some punchy jalapeno pico, some rich black bean sauce. It's just perfection. The fried onions for a little crunch. On and on and on. Go look at the menu. Go look at the Puesto menu. I mean, it's just off the charts. All right, and always appreciate them supporting the show. You go to the restaurant, you got the watermelon margarita, mango margarita, the Puesto perfect margarita. In the stadium, you can get it with the fresh strawberry, the fresh lime juice. So everything is fantastic. Great appetizers. Taco Tuesday in the restaurant, if you dine in 3:00 or later, half off all the tacos. All right, half off all the tacos 3:00 or later. And they got the shrimp gobernador quesadilla. Go open the door to your stomach and put this quesadilla in it with the Mexican shrimp, on and on. So check out the menu. If you're watching, you can scan the QR code on the screen. If you're listening, link to Puesto in the description. Levi Stadium, SoCal, Bay Area, food, football, Puesto. Mwah. All right. What mattered? what mattered from this game. Very, less than perfect, no doubt. Less than perfect, no doubt. A couple things matter to me. If you go back to last week, one thing I talked about on the show was the comments from Devondre Campbell to Eric Branch of the San Francisco Chronicle, where he said, well, nobody told me I'd be splitting reps with D winners. And I said, well, that's not good. That's not a great quote. High-level competitive teams, nobody talks like that publicly. Maybe they feel that way, normal, human, but you don't talk like that. What's up with the vibe? Then Brandon Aiyuk wears the wrong shorts. Wore the wrong shorts out to practice. Wrong color. And people go, is that a tantrum? I know Grant posted the video. Everyone got to analyze it themselves. Was it a tantrum? Was it not a tantrum? I was on team not a tantrum. Receiver, not viewed as a leader necessarily, right? It's not his role. He's getting paid a lot of money to be a good player. But, what would their vibe be? Like, that was one of my questions. And the good news for them is they weren't going to be tested like it was a Chiefs game this week. But what would their vibe be? Would they come out acting like the big bag dog playing an FCS team? And they did. They did. And, the good news for them, they got Fred Warner, they got George Kittle, they got Deebo Samuel. So they got their big dogs back to start this game. And they played like it. I'll get to Brock. I will get to Brock Purdy today. But, there's one thing, it's a clear DNA trait with Kyle Shanahan, which is if he's ever in a situation, either in a game or in a season, where his back is somewhat against the wall, which it was. I mean, you're 1-2. You better win this game, right? When this game starts, your back is against the wall. What does he do? He gives the ball to Deebo Samuel. And so Deebo Samuel's starting the game at running back. That is a classic Shanahan DNA trait. It's fine. It's good. It's not a bad thing. And the fact that Deebo was available enough to do that for them, he took advantage of it. You saw today how much Kittle just changes a game. The competitiveness that he chases the football with, right? I'm not talking about play. I'm not talking about like his competitiveness as a fire guys up. I'm talking about when the ball is in the air, like it was on that. The trajectory on that touchdown pass, like the actual air trajectory from Purdy to Kittle was so weird. It was just it was a floater. But he put it way up and let it drop straight down to George. Anyway, but his competitiveness on that play, right? His competitive integrity on that specific play. I am catching this football, for all the guys that matter on this team and all of them that battle injury, and Talanoa Hufanga didn't play. George Kittle's play-to-play competitiveness is, if you had to pick 4 to 6 structural keystone tentpole parts of this team and this organization, George Kittle's play-to-play, just pure competitiveness, I will beat you on this snap, it's a core piece of this team and of this franchise. Like he executes play-to-play what Kyle Shanahan wants the stamp on this team to be. So I just thought it was a George Kittle day for sure. Deebo a day. You cannot play the Patriots every week. You can't play the Rams every week, right? The Rams should be 0-4 right now, but credit to them, they took advantage of the 49ers last week. You play the Cardinals now coming up. We'll get to that. I mean, I just want to mention, though, you'll play the Cardinals, who were trending up and then got walloped by Washington today. You play them next week. They are not like New England. New England, I know there was some of this like, oh, you got to respect New England coming in stuff. I did not say that. No, you don't. No, you don't. All right. So much of, do you have to respect a team or not, comes down to the quarterback. Like, I thought you had to respect the Rams. Why? Matthew Stafford. So I know and I respect it. But like the film study was, you got to respect the Patriots. And anybody who has an opinion based on the film they watch, I respect you take the time to do it. But let's not overcomplicate it. Jacoby Brissett, okay? And that proved itself out today. That changes next week. It does not matter what the record is, what they did today, that they don't look like the same team they were the first 2 weeks of the season. Kyler Murray, you're not going to be able to get to him the way you got to Jacoby Brissett with that level of consistency. And they got more talent. And they kind of believe they're supposed to win. This Patriots team, solid operation. Solid operation. All right. I don't know if those guys got off the plane thinking they're winning this football game this week. Good for them. They're competitive people. They look like I think they probably did think that because they play hard. I respect that Patriots team, but that quarterback just isn't beating you over 4 quarters. This week, different story. Like that has to be better next week, but it's not next week yet. It's this week. And this week, it was just about vibe check, take care of business, Debo back, Kittle back, Fred Warner looking better next week, Talanoa Hufanga returning. Those things matter next week, But I thought, and it's hard to look at this game and say, well, you take this away. The fact that they really got the Jacoby Brissett, that really mattered. It was great. It's a different animal next week. You do it next week against Kyler Murray, and then I think everybody goes, okay, maybe this defense has turned a corner. You just don't get credit as a defense for turning a corner if you do it against New England. You do it next week, now are they gonna? What's the plan next week? Because I see in the comments, the blitz they adjusted and they blitzed this week. Well, everybody blitzes the Patriots. So that might have just been a game plan specific thing, not a change in the 49ers identity this week. What do they do next week with Kyler? Then you get to say, all right, you guys turned a corner. We wouldn't be talking like this if they'd beaten the Rams last week, but they didn't. Now you look around the league and you go, oh, they are in good shape, right? The Packers lost. The Eagles didn't look good. The Eagles, as expected, things are weird in Philly. How do we know? Because they usually are. Their weird quotes post-game about his coach, asked about their, game planning relationship, Sirianni. And Sirianni doesn't call plays. Remember, they took play calling duties away from Nick Sirianni, I think twice on 2 different occasions. Definitely the one time when they just took it. And then he already called a play last week. And then this week, this is what happens when their head coach is the worst head coach in their division. When will one of their coordinators be the head coach of that program? Sooner rather than later, probably. So I don't want to take credit. Somebody reminded me that I once said, I was just reading somebody else's good comment, that Sirianni looks like Alex Smith's brother who steals catalytic converters. I think that's a good line. It's nothing to do with his coaching ability, but I thought it was a good line. And they just the whole thing, everybody in the NFC, I think when the season started, and I said this at the time, folks, you're not going to look up and the Saints are in the Super Bowl. All right. You're not going to look up and the Bucks are in the Super Bowl this year. Just everybody, when those are your 2-0 teams, it's a wide open division. Now, a conference. Now, it's a deep conference. There's still, I would say 13, 12, at minimum 12, maybe 13 or 14 of the 16 teams in the NFC really do think they can make the playoffs. But that's good. That's ultimately good for the 49ers if they can just play with their head above water. If you play average football, then it's a kind of year in the conference where, you could be the 6th seed. If you play slightly above average football, now you're the first wild card. If you play good football, you're going to be a 1 or a 2 seed in the NFC this year. Are they playing good football? Not yet, but Minnesota's 4-0. Minnesota's 4-0. Minnesota has beat really good. Minnesota's not some BS 4-0. They beat the Niners. They blew out the Texans. And they beat the Packers on Sunday 31-29. And, had that game in hand. Do they get discredited because Green Bay came back, or do they get credited because they won? They get credited because they won. Now they play the Jets. Then they get a bye. Then they play the Lions. Looking at Minnesota's schedule, it is favorable to them. They've got Jacksonville, the Colts, the Titans, the Bears, the Cardinals, the Falcons coming up. All right. So Minnesota's in good shape. But are they great? No, they're not. But they're in great shape. The point is just the Niners picked a good year to be figuring it out. And they're figuring it out. But win while you're figuring it out. And they did that. They did that today. They did hit a deep ball to Deebo Samuel. I don't believe my eyes. And over the top. Now, I don't want to get nitpicky here. Sideline go balls are a little different than middle of the field balls, but I got to give credit where credit is due. And the 49ers hit a go ball to Deebo Samuel, of all people, on Sunday. If you've been listening to the show for, I guess if you've been listening for a few months, definitely if you've been listening for years, that I've been saying for years that they just don't hit that ball, because I tell you, every practice I go to, they tried it 3 times, they didn't hit it. So it's good they hit it. They've been practicing it for 4 years. I'm glad to finally see it happen. They tried it again on the very next possession. And on that particular attempt, the defensive back for the Patriots had Chris Conley beat. Unfortunately, Chris Conley's the offensive player, so it didn't go well. But they hit the one. And I liked seeing it. I thought it was a great call, a 53, 55-yard play. I love seeing it right after New England took the ball on the Guerrero fumble on the return and scored a touchdown. And the Niners just came right back out, deep in their own territory, deep ball. Boom, hit, scored touchdown. A couple plays later. That was good. That helped a little exhale. The special teams, still a problem. Isaac Guerrero ran up the back of his own guy and fumbled the ball. Wasn't even punched out. He just ran up his own guy's back. I to the point, Kyle Juszczyk returned one today because Niners had enough. Juszczyk does it in practice. He's reliable. Funny thing is, it wasn't the catch that was the problem for Guerrero. It was the return. So that's a mess still. Not every special teams gaffe is related. And I don't really know. You play 5 years of college football or whatever it is. It's not Brian Schneider's job to help Isaac Guerrero not fumble. It's just kind of price of admission. Now, has he returned? Now are you putting him in a spot where he's uncomfortable? But Juice does it all. Nobody smiles more during a football game while playing his ass off than Juice and Kittle. And that was great to see. It's not the long-term solution if you want to have any sort of dynamics to your special teams game. But, if you told Kyle Shanahan you're going to fumble it 4 more times this year on on kickoff returns, you'd say, forget it. Forget the whole thing. Like, give me those 4 seconds for my offense instead. Although he likes seeing time come off the clock. But yikes. Yikes again. So they got a lot. This is not a button-down operation, and partly it's because of the injuries. Would he consider putting Deebo Samuel back there while he's not 100% or while he's on his way back from injury? Maybe. I don't know. My guess is no. They tried some of it. I thought Elijah Mitchell was going to work for them back there. Obviously not available. So they just don't have a ton of good options. The first thing is you want to catch it. The second thing is you want to hold it. But this would have been a good week to have just a button-down game, and they didn't have a button-down game. So maybe you just dial the whole thing back and don't try to do anything. But that's usually not a winning attitude, right? Play it safe is not a winning attitude. I was a little disappointed. The first play of the game, the first possession of the game, 3rd and 5, no Hufanga. Malik Mustafa, the rookie, is in there playing for him. What happens? Totally whiffs, bad angle. on a tackle. And the Patriots picked up that third down. They picked up another third down. And they had almost a little bit of a drive put together. But after that, it didn't seem like much of an issue. Brandon Aiyuk, where are we at? What do you say? It's hard live game to really dissect a receiver because you're not seeing the all 22. And Aiyuk did make a couple catches today, and both were significant plays. One was a 10-yarder, one was a 38-yarder. But you're just not getting the dynamic separator, playmaker. He had the ball in the end zone. You would have liked to have seen him be able to break it up. It's an interception. It's probably more on the throw. Purdy was feeling himself, and he gave Aiyuk a 50-50 ball to go get it. But you just want to see some above and beyond plays from Aiyuk. My stance is that when it's all said and done, he'll turn out to look like the same guy he always looks like. But now we're 4 games in, and you're not seeing CeeDee Lamb. So we didn't get the Aiyuk answer. I keep waiting, I keep going to PrizePicks and waiting. But what you see with him is today, his big catch was on a wide ass open play. So Shanahan got him open on that play. The thing you haven't seen, there's the debate about, does Aiyuk separate? Aiyuk, I think historically, has made plenty of catches on balls on slants that aren't really big separation plays, but they're just difficult catches. He makes the play. He's not really getting a lot of targets in that spot. He made a really good play coming back to the ball. Nice dive. But yeah, it's been 4 weeks. We're still waiting. And it's well, is there going to be a game where he has 7 catches, or what is going on? What is going on? This is not, I don't think he changed, but this is not a top 10 receiver, which is what he was, what he is, what he's supposed to be. What you're paying him, you're not paying him to be Justin Jefferson. You're just paying him to be Brandon Aiyuk. You just want Aiyuk. It reminds me at times of watching the old Amari Cooper Raiders. And you go, wait, I at the time thought Amari was going to turn out to be one of the great receivers of his era. And you're like, where did he go? Where did he disappear to? What happened? Does the coach just need to get him open? Can he go get open? Are there just too many other good options? So I still think when it's all said and done, we're going to look up and Brandon Aiyuk has a Brandon Aiyuk year, which is what they're paying for. But one of these weeks, there's going to be a game where they really need him to go make a couple of plays. The way that Jauan Jennings has made plays. When you look at Jennings, Kittle, Debo, all 3 of those guys have made plays that you'd say are wins above replacement plays, or plays over, just plays that are above average plays that some other guy making less money than them can't make. For Jauan Jennings, he's making plays that some guy making more money than him can't make. But all 3 of those guys, I got this, dude. Just put it over here. I got this. And you're not getting it from Brandon Aiyuk right now. On the chat, Brent says, you cannot take the entire offseason off and expect to return as the same player. That is extremely logical, right? If players work, then we know that they think the work helps. I know one guy who thinks practice matters, Christian McCaffrey. Fred Warner thinks, you watch Fred Warner practice, he practices like it matters. He's on his way to the Hall of Fame. The 49ers, for all the great quarterbacks, well, really the 2 great quarterbacks, they are linebacker U. And Fred Warner is going to finish his career up there with the others. Excuse me, sneeze. My wife says, I said to her, what are the things, what do I do that give you the ick? I'm watching this, we're watching some of this Netflix show called nobody wants this or something like that. It's pretty funny. And she said, when you sneeze, the face that you freeze on for like 3 seconds before you actually sneeze it's not the ick, but it's down the list of the attractive faces that you make. So anyway, for those of you listening, I just muted during a sneeze, but some of you probably got to see it. Sorry. As long as my wife's not watching, it's no big deal. But anyway, like all these guys are making. So he didn't practice. Is it that simple? Maybe it's that simple. Jauan Jennings, oh, holy smokes, this guy, man. Like, I thought Jauan Jennings was a key piece of the 49ers and had proven that he's a very high ceiling, high floor player. You know, because he's not a really fast guy, just there's always going to be kind of a cap on what can be expected from your ceiling. But Jauan Jennings this is fifth year in the league, because he kind of redshirted what is this? Yeah, fifth year in the league, because he basically didn't play. He did not play in 2020. So he has elevated his game. I mean, right now he has a career high. He's taking the yards per catch crown from Brandon Aiyuk. He is proving trustworthy on 50-50 balls. We already knew he was trustworthy on plays that require a lot of toughness, right? They trust him to go to third down to pick up moments. I mean, this guy, it's not brand new. If the Niners had won the Super Bowl, he might have been the MVP of the Super Bowl. But the level to which he's gotten, and rightfully for all of the attention on the fact that Brock Purdy is the 262nd pick, this guy was also a 7th round pick. And he's been, I would say what you're getting from Jennings right now, if he was a 4th round pick, you'd be happy. If he was a 2nd round pick, if he was he caught 19 balls last year. So you're not trying to get 19 catches out of a 2nd round pick. But he has surpassed his catch total from last year already this year. Let me double check that. I have not found yet a website. It's crazy that updates season stats immediately after games on Sunday. Last year, yeah, but I mean, last year he had 19 catches. This year, Jauan Jennings has 21 catches. I'm just doing some math. 21 catches. And it's not like he didn't play in 20 games last year, but he played in 13 regular season games. Jauan Jennings has more catches this year than he had all of last year. That's crazy. And he was important last year. He has more touchdowns this year than he had last year. Jauan Jennings is having a career year, and the highlights say that, but then just the stats say that. Wow. I didn't realize until I looked that he had already surpassed last year's. Did he have a first down catch today? He entered play today with as many first down catches this year as he had all of last year. I mean, you can look back and go, should he have had more than 33 targets last year? Jennings this year has 28 targets. Comment, Aiyuk turned into Crabtree. Did he? You mean Crabtree when he came back off an Achilles? Jennings is just... The thing about him is clearly Purdy trusts him. And how could you not? I mean, everybody trusts him. Fred Warner looks like he's on his way. Well, it's too early to call him the defensive player of the year, but Fred Warner is playing like, and I saw Richard Sherman post this, defensive player of the year level. After the game, Kyle Shanahan said, no, they're not sure yet the significance of his ankle injury. I'm reading Nick Wagner's tweet here. Said Warner tried to go back in, but they didn't feel like he was good to go. I think that, if you're just reading his kind of body language, it feels like Fred, it gives you reason to be hopeful, I think, right? If you're just watching the game, you're hopeful that that Fred Warner can return. But, it'll be another, it's pretty crazy how hurt this team has been. It's wild. We've seen injured teams before, but this feels like if it keeps going at this rate, it's unsustainable. Now, maybe he comes back and Hufanga comes back and it's all good. But, those, like a Fred Warner injury to me would be more devastating than a McCaffrey injury. They're dealing with the McCaffrey injury. I hesitate to say fine because having McCaffrey is just you'd rather have him. But Jordan Mason, 5 yards a carry, looks good in the pass game. He had, 2 catches, 1 wiped out, but 2 for 37. The Fred Warner one is the one that, he helps the interior defensive line. I thought, for the most part, played well today against the run. It's one thing, getting after a quarterback as immobile as Brissett. I don't think you put a ton of stock in that. To me, you put more stock in just how they look against the run. And I thought they looked good against the run. It's too early to say that defense is back, but, I think you just, everyone's kind of hopeful that that they will get better as time goes on. Yeah. D Winters was back and made some plays. This was not a game where you really go possession by possession. But Fred Warner's pick, I'm just looking at some of the game notes, some of my notes here. Fred Warner's pick was ridiculous. The pick, the pop-up, the touchdown. I didn't think he was going to score. It was just an outrageous play. And I think it's pretty incredible that Fred Warner is still peaking. I think I would have thought like 2 years ago he was at his peak. I remember last year there was some talk like, has Fred Warner fallen off a little bit? And 2 years ago there was really some talk like, has Fred Warner fallen off? And then last year, I don't think he's at his peak, but he's better than he was the year before. But it feels like now watching him this year, he's still ascending as a player. And maybe he was uncomfortable in the defense last year. We know at points early he was uncomfortable in the defense last year. But you watch him now, and you're like, oh my God, this guy, this has to be the top. And if this is the top, it's incredible. But it's the best he's played. And he's one of the best players in the league. Just period. Now, Nick Bosa looked like that too. Nick Bosa looked like that too today. Bosa was in on every single play. And, there were a couple of times where he didn't get the sack or he tackled Brissett late across the line of scrimmage, not a sack. He did get the strip sack. And you could tell, he wanted it as much as everybody else says, God, I wish Bosa would finish off some of these plays. He wanted it. Kevin Givens had 2.5 sacks today, by the way. Bosa had 1. It felt like he had 4. He was everywhere. That was Nick Bosa. That was Nick Bosa. And that was one where I agree. Some of these days you're like, well, why doesn't the stats match? People say the grades say this, but then you watch and you go, where are the sacks? Today was one where he had the 1 sack and you're like, yeah, he was in on every single play. But Patriots, there's only so much stock we can put in that. So, all right, let's talk about the quarterback, Brock Purdy. There was a shot of Brock Purdy smiling before the game, laughing, Fox cameras had this shot of Brock Purdy laughing on the bench before the game. And it was another in a line of images of Brock in which you see how crazy comfortable he is. I thought one of those was after the Minnesota game, where he was totally comfortable complimenting Brian Flores in a way that just felt like a really good NFL quarterback telling a defensive coordinator, you do a good job. Almost like I look forward to getting this opportunity again. If you were to box score scout Purdy today, 15 to 27, that's not great. 288 was good on my PrizePicks. Combined Brock and Jaden Daniels made 650 there. PrizePicks code guy. I'll tell you about that later. 1 touchdown, 1 pick. I think the fumble on the toss play to Jordan Mason got attributed to him too. It is so apparent how comfortable Brock Purdy is. That is just what I keep coming back to. This was his 25th career start today. And statistically, it was, 15 to 27 is just not going to be among his best games. And there are still, as there always will be, as long as he's a quarterback, plays in which his lack of a elite arm show up. But I think one thing that really has started to stand out about him is not just how quickly he processes, but how his quick processing allows him to trust himself. And I think it shows up sometimes when he runs. One thing that every television analyst says, and it's correct, when Purdy escapes the pocket, ducks under a sack, pump fakes a guy, scrambles for a first down. And right now, I think one of the easiest picks for me every week on PrizePicks is it's always like 7.5 rushing yards for Brock Purdy. It's easy. I think I've hit it, whatever the number is on Brock Purdy rushing yards, 4 weeks in a row. And today it hit me watching him, like, because he's so comfortable just staying in the pocket, and quarterbacks leaving the pocket early is an absolute epidemic. If you watch college and NFL football, you see quarterbacks stepping out of the pocket and into pressure nonstop. Brock rarely, I know I love when guys evacuates the pocket when he shouldn't. And most quarterbacks do that. I've just been here so long. This feels uncomfortable. It's time for me to go. Somebody must be about to sack me. It's time for me to go. I think one of the reasons Purdy is such an effective scrambler is because a lot of times he is running where there is nobody. And I think the reason he's running where there's nobody is these routes have finished. And now guys are just like sprinting down the field. And it just opens up all of this space. And he can just pick, I'm either going to go left or I'm going to go right. In the flat on one side of the field, it's going to be wide ass open. And I'm just going to go pick up. It's a gimme. Think about how many times you see Brock run and how often it is just nobody in sight for 7 yards. Or all Brock has to do is make one guy kind of behind the line of scrimmage, right? So not a linebacker or a safety, but a defensive lineman miss with a little shimmy. And then he can use his sneaky athleticism to go get 7-8 yards. But I think where it starts, it's not the athleticism that starts it. It's his patience. And because he's so patient, the field opens up to him as a runner. And that is what hit me today watching him, that his athleticism matters, but just watch, whatever, you're going to watch Sunday Night Football. But there's 2 games Monday, watch Monday Night Football, watch college football. Players, when we talk about quarterback experience, I think what it really, like, I've watched a lot of Dylan Raiola, who's a true freshman at Nebraska. And he's got sidearms and he's got touch and he's got processing and he's still, he's a young quarterback still. So there's a lot to learn. But to me, the experience is only useful experience if a guy didn't spend his whole college career just running around. Purdy, and I know he had one run around crazy play today. He's got one every week behind the line of scrimmage where he goes backwards and when he's on the move, especially when he's kind of moving backwards on the move. I don't mean backpedaling, but I just mean Montana sprint right option kind of back into the side. I think his lack of arm strength, that people get offended, are like, why are you a hater? And I don't understand the sensitivity to this. His arm strength, his lack of arm strength shows up in some spots. But his other stuff, his processing, his arm's good enough to be a franchise quarterback, right? It's not good enough to be a franchise quarterback without elite processing, which he has, and kind of his athleticism. But his feel, like, that's just the thing, is this experience, this thing about experienced quarterbacks really matters when it comes to pocket feel. Because you really hurt yourself if you leave the pocket early, and you kill your offense. If you wait and leave when you want to leave, now you pick the door, right? Brock, often when he leaves the pocket, he just steps up through, and then there's space. So, a couple of plays that really stood out. The first third down on the third drive of the game was everything I'm talking about right there. He had a really nice scramble around, got it to Kittle down at the 5-yard line. There was, on the second possession, they had a third down where he's running away. Oh, the pressure, I think, came off the right side. And he does the thing that he does a lot because he's solidly built and low to the ground, and he ducks, right? And the would-be sacker kind of flips off him. And then he's moving to his right, kind of going backwards, and he tries to get it to Debo in the right front corner of the end zone. And that's a really tough throw. That's a throw where I think you would see like Jordan Love's arm or Josh Allen's arm or Herbert or whoever. And that in that spot, Purdy can't really make that play because of his arm. But that's just a reality. Whatever, right? So don't say, oh, well, he hit that 55-yarder to Debo and you said his arm, blah, blah, blah. Yeah, he crow hopped. And they hit it. It was good. His arm is enough because he is really special at this other stuff. And the more you watch him, my theory, premise, whatever, coming into the year, and back to the person who said earlier, oh, it shouldn't be surprising that Aiyuk isn't playing well. He skipped practice the whole offseason, basically. The whole thing coming into the year was, here's Brock. He's healthy. He's never had a full offseason as a starting quarterback with Kyle Shanahan. He should look better and more comfortable. And he does. And he, I think, has been really impressive. Week after week, he just looks like the times that he's really good, it's not an accident. Which is what backup quarterbacks look like. Even just bottom 15 quarterbacks. They just don't look the same. The 25th best quarterback in the league in any given year can hit the same throw that Mahomes can hit once. Mahomes just hits it 5 times. So it was just a really, really a game so much more impressive, I think, than the numbers. And it's just, hey, watching Brock now week to week is really fun. It is really fun to watch him. Comment, his red zone interception was Jimmy-like. That from NorCal Refrigeration and HVAC. I thought that interception was largely, irrelevant. Double coverage to Aiyuk. Yeah, not a great decision. Does he make that throw in a 13-13 game? My guess is no. We do see this now. You go back to the Ravens game. Was it the Ravens game last year? Early in the game, when they were still vibing, when he starts hitting, when he's like, oh, I'm hot, he really starts pushing the envelope a little bit. But I think that's pretty natural human. If you are not doing that, you are really fighting human nature. So I think the simplest thing to say about Brock is, don't look at the stats. Just watch him and watch all the other quarterbacks play. And tell me, does he look like one of the best of them? And the answer is yes. I think it's a pretty inarguable, drama-free. If you want to debate, well, the offense and Kyle and system and blah, blah, blah. Okay, we could debate it. But just if you watch the games, who looks like one of the best quarterbacks in the NFL? Every single week, Brock Purdy does. With not an elite offensive line. And I think one of the things that's really impressive about Purdy is for all the offensive line stuff we talk about, he is planted back there in the pocket. He's not thinking, it's not in the back of his, he doesn't play like a guy who is concerned that he's about to get hit. He has good awareness. Sometimes he waits too long, but for the most part, which is hard. Like these guys are fast, they're big, they're strong. So there's so much, it's hard to tell when you're in this game where you're like, none of this matters. Not none of this matters, but let's take a shot here. I'm throwing him up to Jennings and it's working. I'm throwing one up he did a YOLO to Jennings, a YOLO to Kittle, deep ball to Debo. Let's get Aiyuk in on this act. Yeah, it didn't work. All right, well, whatever. We tried. And I don't know if he's thinking this or if he'd even admit it. There's just so much going on. You're just running around. This is the kind of thing that somebody like me cooks up and says. But I'll say it because I wonder. Is that one of those where he's like, I threw a pick, but the big picture, I'm showing Aiyuk, I'm trying to get him the ball. And that's worth something too. Maybe. I don't know. I don't know if you have enough. You probably don't have enough time. We had a quarterback here. He'd probably say, I don't have enough time for that. I'm just trying to make a play, man. But, I do wonder, is there some value in trying to show Brandon Aiyuk like, hey, bro, let me, I know I threw a pick. Hey, I trust you, right? That's the kind of thing after the game, Purdy goes up to Aiyuk and says, whatever, I'll throw it to you next time. I'll try you again. I'm not going to stop throwing it to you. Maybe. There is something to that, especially in a game like that where you can get away with it, So, the run around and the throw to the touchdown pass to Juszczyk that didn't count. That was a great catch by Juszczyk. Touchdown. That was a really nice play. Didn't count. I don't think Kyle Juszczyk has to lead the league in touchdowns taken away. Or almost touchdown. He has to lead the league in getting up, shaking his head, grinning after he should have had a touchdown. Did you guys watch college football this weekend? I told you, watch for all the swaggy 44s out there running around playing H-back with wristbands all over their elbows and stuff. They're out there. So yeah, that throw to Kittle they overcame 2 touchdowns. They need to be more consistently a touchdown scoring team in the red zone. But I think this is one of those games you kind of smile, you go, okay, what mattered today, what matters is Fred Warner comes out of it healthy. You get Hufanga back. It was good to see, when they say it's a 2-week injury for Debo, like it's usually not 8. So Debo came back, Kittle came back. Those guys look good. And the quarterback is just worth watching every week. He's just, he is playing like a guy who, when it comes time to talk about his contract, is really not going to be too big sides to the debate, right? People will just, if he just keeps going, you look up and say, man, there's really nothing to argue here. He's playing like one of the best quarterbacks in the league, so he's going to get paid like one of the best quarterbacks in the league. You just trust him so much, man. 25 starts. Yeah, Juice looks really good. They got some guys who you wonder, are they still where are they at? And he looked good. He's looking good. Somebody in the chat. Oh, I got some. You know what? This thing does not Oh man, this happened to me the other day. Some of you hit me with some super chats. I appreciate it. James, let's go to a super chat from James. Moody, 10 of 10 on PATs, 8 of 9 on field goals, and the miss was what, 55 yards? Right? Pretty good. Appreciate that. Let me get. Oh, where are these super chats? I got to star these. I need intern Connor on these, but Connor is off gallivanting around the globe. Where are these other super chats? This happened to me the other day where there's so many of these comments, and the super chats, StreamYard automatically. This is not StreamYard. This is Restream. StreamYard automatically keeps an eye on them for you, and this thing doesn't. And it's better than StreamYard in like a lot of ways, but that's not one of them. And I appreciate you guys throwing a few bucks at me in a super chat, and then I gotta like hunt for it, and that's fun content. I mean, looking around for super chats. All right, here we go. I found a few of them, but I had to go to the actual stream, so I can't put it on the screen. But Mike Crocker, $2. Brock reminds me of early Breeze, calm and collected. Yeah, I mean, it's just, that is who the comp has to be, and it just feels crazy because it's like we're going to comp him to Drew Brees, right? Drew Brees was himself an exception to the rule. So you're saying, is this guy an exception to the rule? And Brock has been already so many exceptions. He's an exception to the rule just at his size. He's an exception to the rule being the last pick. He's an exception to the rule when you look at the depth chart he came in on and where he is now, which should make you think, well, maybe he just is the big picture exception to the rule. Mike goes on to say the Super Bowl window is open as long as Brock's the quarterback. We totally agree on that. Now, is it harder if he gets paid more? Blah, blah, blah. If you have one of the best quarterbacks in the league, then your Super Bowl window stays open. There were more super chats, and even this one doesn't let me go all the way back. So to everybody who sent one, thank you. I'm sorry I missed it. I gotta do a better job keeping track of those as we're going here. But I'm just ranting and raving, and I'm not really ranting or raving. But everyone great is an exception to the rule. Right. Which is why, when people say, oh, there are so many quarterbacks with all the traits that they are exceptions. Oh, he's got an arm that's an exception, or he's got an athleticism that's an exception, but not a total package that's an exception. Like the exceptions is like 12 guys. And not 12 new guys every year, just a rotation of the same 12 to 15 guys that are exceptions to the rule. If you watch college football like I do every week, you really see. If you're a college football fan, holy smokes, like, are good quarterbacks out there? Kathy says, will you be at a stadium for a Niners game this season? Thanks for going live. I don't think it's weird. I've been to the stadium a million times to practice, to go to Niners practice and that sort of thing. But for games, I post up here at home. Or I think I'll have to do one from a hotel in a couple of weeks, because it just it makes it easier. I can go on right after the game and that sort of thing. But thanks for asking. I will be at a stadium. I'm at a stadium basically every Saturday. This Saturday I'll be at Minnesota. Some of you care for USC Minnesota. That is going to be on Saturday night on Big Ten Network. It's going to be a big game. Big game. Very excited about it. Shedeur Sanders is a good player. He's a very good player. I was talking to a college football quarterback coach 2 weeks ago, and I said, "You watch?" We were talking about the Colorado, because Colorado had played Friday night. We were talking about the Colorado game. They had won on a Hail Mary, and then went to overtime. And I was like, "What do you think of Shedeur?" And he said, the one thing you can really tell with Shedeur Sanders is he sees everything. I think Shedeur is a very, very fast processor, and that makes him an exception. And it makes sense, right? Being around the game, playing as much quarterback as he's played, He is they kicked UCF's butt this week. He is a very fast processor. And I think that more than anything else is why he's going to be a top 5 pick in the NFL draft. And there's going to be a lot of debate about his celebration and what about the whole blah, blah, blah. But I think people are going to ultimately go, well, wait a second. You sit down with him, he's likable. And he really sees the field well, and he throws it well. So anyway, that's a college football take, but I think he's a really good player. Andrew says, I'd like to see Miller Moss as Purdy's backup. USC is going through this thing this year where they're good, and they replaced Caleb Williams with a very different type of quarterback who can't do a lot of the stuff that Caleb Williams can do, but does do some of the stuff that Caleb doesn't do, which is run USC's offense on schedule. And they've got really talented receivers, and he just puts the ball in the right place for those guys. So they beat Wisconsin this week. Minnesota almost came back on Michigan, which would have been selfishly good for your boy. I just root for the teams I'm about to have games with winning a lot. But anyway, that didn't happen. Brock Purdy delivered for me, as did Jaden Daniels in PrizePicks this weekend. So it was good. I won $650 on a lineup with those two. And it's time for my PrizePicks segment of the show. Right now, you go to PrizePicks, or you click on the link in the description, or scan the QR code. Whether you're listening or watching, there is a link in the description that takes you to my PrizePicks link. You go there, you use the code GUY. And when you use the code GUY, you just put $5 in. You make a lineup. A lineup is just 2 or more players. You make a lineup, and you will immediately get $50 deposited into your account, and you can just start playing right away. So what we like to do on this show is we jump in and I make some PrizePicks lineups, and this will be the case for, I got to get this one in. Do I have time to get this one in? This one has, I can't get Josh Allen in. Tough break. I think it's too late for the Ravens. Lamar. Yeah, not getting that one in. So that's not good. Okay. Next lineup, Jared Goff. Let's go with Jared Goff here. I'm going to go some Monday night. We got Monday night action. I'm going to go Jared Goff more. If you know me, you know I like Goff, the dude, but I also like this type of pick. Jared Goff more than half an interception on Monday night against the Seahawks. Doesn't pain me to do it. Seattle's defense has been really good under Mike McDonald. Second fewest air yards allowed this year is Seattle. Nothing's been easy in the air against Seattle. Now they've played Bo Nix, Jacoby Brissett, and Skylar Thompson. So they're probably not a top 2 passing defense. But that said, a Goff pick, this pick has done well for me in the past. So I'm going Goff more than half an interception. I'm going to combine this with, let's go Kenneth Walker. And you don't have to type things in as I'm doing here. You can just jump on and look at what's available. But I've got targeted picks here. I'm going to go Kenneth Walker, less than 55.5 rushing yards. He's back from an oblique injury this week, so maybe they ease him in. They've had the Lions, that is, have had a strong rush defense, under 4 yards an attempt. They're allowing 77 rushing yards on the ground. That is 4th best in the league. So we're predicting here that Seattle's going to throw the ball more on Monday Night Football. And because of that, let's go DK Metcalf. And you can see, if you're watching, there's all these like combo picks you can do too. You can do like DK plus Tyreek Hill more than half a touchdown tomorrow. Those are always fun ones. But I'm going to go DK more than 65.5 receiving yards. And then, so here's the lineup. And I can either flex it, right, where you win a little less if you get all 3 right, 2.25x the money. But you can also just get two of the three right, and one exit. But I'm going to stick with the power play. I'm going to go 100 wins 500. And there we go. There's a lineup. Like if I'm not showing you how to do it, although it's pretty easy, you probably don't need my instruction. If I'm not making lineups on the fly, then you don't need me to do it. You can do it pretty easily. All right, next lineup. I'm going to go Tony Pollard. Let's go more than, where's his rushing total here? I'm going to go more than 50.5. I mean, he's running back one now for the Titans. They're playing the Dolphins on Monday night. He's had far more carries than their number 2 running back. The Dolphins are giving up 112 rushing yards per game on the ground. It's a low total, 50.5. As long as Will Levis is holding on to the ball, he should get plenty of opportunities. So Tony Pollard. How about this one? Let's have some fun here. Let's go Tyler Huntley. Yeah. Let's go Tyler Huntley, more than 29.5 rushing yards for Miami. He's had more than 30. Think about this. Tyler Huntley has had more than 30 rushing yards 10 times in his career. How many games has he played? He's done it 10 times? That's incredible. So Mike McDaniel's going to scheme up some open throws for him, but the Titans have the best passing defense by yards in the league. They've only allowed 3 touchdowns passing. So Huntley's gonna run the ball. So I've got that there. And then I'm going to go Achane. I never know how to say it correctly. But I'm going to go more than half a touchdown. Where is his touchdown total here? This can be receiving or rushing. We got an Achane touchdown. So what is this? What is this going to pay here? 6.25 X. So let's do that to pay 650. There you go. PrizePicks. All right. That's how you do it. PrizePicks, promo code GUY, GUY. You put in 50, you put in 5, you make a $5 lineup, and off you go. They'll put $50 bonus dollars right into your account, and you can have some fun. I got a couple Purdy season-long ones and feeling good about it. Jeremy says Hunter is a top 8 pick. So some of you may know this. I'm a Heisman voter. I have a Heisman vote. And I love college football, and I call college football games every week. So I'm watching them anyway. But I love Travis Hunter. What's not to love? The guy's a stud. And he's a top 8 pick. What do you do? Is he a receiver or a corner? I think he's a corner. But I think he is going to, believe me when I tell you, he is going to try, and you don't have to believe me. He is going to try and play both ways in the NFL. That's hard. The guys who have tried it, even I did Colorado spring game last year. Even Deion's like, it's hard. But he's a really hard worker. I know there's always all this noise around Colorado, and they bring a lot of it on themselves. He's a really good dude. And, I think it's just, if anybody can do it, it's this guy. So I'm a huge Travis Hunter fan. I'm rooting for Travis Hunter, and he's going to get drafted way higher than the 49ers can get him, which is good for the Niners that they're not going to be drafting high enough. They better not be drafting high enough for Travis Hunter. Yeah, man, he is a stud. He is a stud. Monday night, by the way, Seattle at Detroit. Did I say that? Yeah. And Titans Dolphins. Shannon says the best part of Jauan Jennings is he got paid and playing like he deserved it. Easier to play like you deserve it when it's significantly less money. But yeah. Cook Sports. Purdy is elite. Mono says, I sent a super chat earlier that says they should still trade for Hassan Reddick. Who's paying them? Them? Who's paying them? I was feeling pretty good about myself on Saturday night when I said I've said for a couple weeks Alabama's going to beat Georgia, and then they're kicking their butt. I'm like, see, told you guys. Comment that 17-year-old receiver for Alabama is unreal. That catch he made last night was special. Yeah, Ryan Williams. If you haven't seen that, I'm sure most of you have seen that highlight, but it was amazing. Spy v Spy says the book is out on BA. Teams won't stop being physical with him because they know it takes him away. The only thing you can do is feature someone else and look for him on the backside. Yeah, I mean, gosh, they got to figure out something because him being a glorified decoy is that's not good. That's not the money. This is about Travis Hunter. Can he keep playing DB and receiver in the league though? The bet is no, right? The bet always has to be like you just can't do it because he plays basically every snap. He's a really good receiver. I think he's an elite cornerback. He's a cornerback with receiver skills, which is, that makes you like extra special. Extra special. So Tony asks, do the Niners go back to the trenches in the draft? Probably. Can we talk about the lack of coverage on punts? Yeah, I mean, we can. It was better today. It's been an ongoing issue. I think when your depth gets hit the way their depth has gotten hit, that's one of the areas that shows up. And they haven't just lost their best players on offense or defense. They lost Curtis Robinson, who's one of their best special teams players, backup linebacker, last week in practice. So, when a starter gets hurt and now some guy that plays special teams all of a sudden has to go play 50 snaps on defense, that affects your special teams as well. So there's a trickle down from the starters, and then you get one of your best special teams players injured, and there's not a trickle down. That's a direct impact. So, I'd love to say they can find a way to make special teams a positive, but at this point, they just got to make it a neutral. Just try and make special teams a neutral. So, all right. I think that's that for this. Busy week for me ahead, but you know where to find me here on YouTube and in the podcast feed. Appreciate y'all as always. Please hit the like button if you're watching on YouTube. Subscribe to the channel. Appreciate that very much. Check out PrizePicks code GUY if you're watching. And Puesto. Thanks to the support, Puesto. Taco Tuesday's coming up, so go find a Puesto in your area, Santa Clara, Concord, Orange County, San Diego, or if you're going to Levi Stadium, 2 locations there. Go enjoy. Huge Niner fans, and as good as they are at making food, they're even better to be partnered with, so I'm very, very happy about that. All right, and they're really good at entertaining. Like the restaurant, it's not just good food. If you go to a Puesto, the restaurant's awesome. It's badass. Like, it's a cool bar. It's just a cool hang. So go check it out. All right, y'all.